Hi everyone, I am back. Today I am back to visiting my sister, my brother-in-law, and my niece in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is North Jersey, one of the suburbs in New York City. And every time I come back to this vibrant town, I fall more and more in love with it. So today, as my sister and I go for a walk and grab something to eat in one of the amazing restaurants in town, I'm going to give you a tour of this town so you can see it as well, just how amazing it is, in case you may want to make it a home. So stay tuned. So right now we're on Washington Street, and we're waiting for our food. So today we decided to get some Cuban food. So we're checking out La Isla restaurant. And then as soon as we get the food, we're gonna start heading down to the river and grab our lunch there. Alright, so how long have you lived in Hoboken?
I've been in Hoboken for a little over 10 years now. I first moved when I was almost out of college, and I moved here with my best friend and roommate. And since then I've lived in about 4 apartments. And right now my husband and I and our young baby have a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment.
And why did you pick specifically Hoboken to move into?
So when I moved here, I was going to NYU for grad school. And my roommate at the time was working in Jersey City, but we both knew we ultimately wanted to work in Manhattan. And so we found out about Hoboken through a friend, and when we came to visit, absolutely loved it. It doesn't take a long time. It doesn't really, you don't have to try to love this place. And so when we were thinking about moving here, this is exactly why we came here. It has a very much of a neighborhood vibe. A lot of young professionals live here, young families, a lot of kids right out of college, and it's just a great place to be.
So now that you've been here for 10 years, I think every time you've moved, you pick a different area probably, right? So can you talk a little bit about different areas? I mean, the town is like a mile long, square mile, which I think is amazing. But why did you pick different areas? What was important to you maybe every time?
So Hoboken is kind of like Manhattan. It has a downtown, a midtown, and an uptown. So a lot of people, depending on where they work, will choose between those areas.
Okay.
Downtown Hoboken is very close to the PATH train, also close to the ferry. And so if you're working in downtown Manhattan or midtown, lower midtown, or somewhere in between, then downtown is a good area for you. It's also closer to this park here. A lot of younger professionals live in this area, and so when I first moved in, I wanted to be where all the fun was. As we've gotten older, we've actually moved a little bit. We're now in Southwest Hoboken. It's a little bit more family oriented. There are more parks, less bars and restaurants, but still close. But it all depends on where you work, what you like to do, and of course what your budget is.
That's true. Is there anything that you don't like about living here? I know there's lots of things to definitely like.
What I would say is a challenge here is parking. If you have a car, you really have 2 options. One is garage parking, of course, which can be expensive and sometimes doesn't always come with your apartment rental or if you own. And street parking. And the streets are usually one way. There are a lot of visitors, and so but sometimes street parking is hard. The other thing to know about Hoboken is it is in a flood zone, and so during Hurricane Sandy there was a lot of flooding, and if there are heavy rains then a lot of the streets are flooded. But that being said, the city's used to it, so if something is flooded, then they usually resolve it fairly quickly.
They probably have like a pretty good system to get it all under control.
Yes. I would say the last time we had some heavy rains, I think it took maybe 2 to 3 days for everything to get cleared out.
That's good. So, since you've been renting and you've been through a couple of different rentals, what does it take? What does that process look like to find a rental here?
Number one thing to know about renting here is you have to do it fast. Things go on the market and the demand is high, so you have to very quickly snatch up anything that you're interested in. So the other thing to know is if you go through a realtor, then the tenants, not the landlord, pay the real estate fee, which is usually 1 month's rent. So you can either go through a realtor, fairly easy process, or you can kind of do things on your own. Zillow, HotPads, Apartments.com, they all have listings for apartments.
So how much money would you have to have in order to rent an apartment? Like how many months up front you would have to have ready?
It's just security deposit, which is 1.5 months rent, which is standard. Then you have the 1 month realtor fee, and then your monthly rent.
So I know we talked a little bit about commuting, which is I think why many people choose to live here, because it's literally, New York is right there, a basketball throw away. What do you think is the fastest way if somebody who is working in Manhattan for commute purposes, how quickly can they get over to Manhattan from here?
Well, it does depend on what part of Manhattan you need to go to.
Okay.
So if you're going to downtown Manhattan, you have plenty of options. The PATH train is about 7 to 10 minutes.
That's what we usually take when we go in. Okay.
You also have the ferry.
Right.
It's a little more expensive, but you have great views and you're on a boat. That's also about 15 minutes or so. If you're going to Midtown Manhattan, then you have the bus.
Talk about some of your favorite things to do in Hoboken before you had family, and then some of your favorite things to do now that you have a family.
Hoboken is a lot of fun. I will say that. If, as a young professional, the bar and restaurant scene here is great. Most of the time you're eating and drinking outside. The fall is a particularly fun time here because everybody's back from the summer and going to the beach. And it's football season, or it's a huge football city here. And so everybody is hanging out outside, going to the beer garden, going to restaurants, bars, eating, drinking, having a great time with friends. And the weather here is great in the fall. There's also a lot of outdoor activities to do here, even though we are more of a city. There are pickleball courts, tennis courts. There are, you'll probably see as we're walking here, there are runners. There are a lot of fitness places here, kickboxing, Pilates, dance studios. All of that is available here. As a family, as a growing family, young family, as I mentioned, there are parks and there are free activities for kids and for toddlers. Reading time, music in the summer, and there are a lot of kid places. So there's daycare on every corner, but there are also a lot of classes that you can take from your baby being a couple of months old to toddlers, and there's a lot of that for kids.
I know that Hoboken has a lot of parks. I counted like 5 or 6 different parks.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any favorites? Or I guess they're probably in different parts of the town.
They're all over town, which is great because no matter where you live, you'll always have a little bit of green area. My favorite park is probably the one that we that we walked by already. My favorite is Pier A because you can't beat the view.
I agree. We actually just had lunch here with the view, which we try to do quite often. And it's just nice to be able to sit in the shade and enjoy the weather and grab something to eat.
The food here is also really great.
Yes, let's talk about the food.
Yes, because you get a variety of restaurants. There are a couple of famous restaurants in Hoboken. So one is the one that we ate, which is La Isla. It's a Cuban place.
Okay.
It's been around for a long time. Hoboken also has a lot of really great Italian food. You can go to one of the many pizza places or restaurants. There's also a well-known Mexican place called Churritos. And then pretty much everything in between. Cafes.
You have a famous bakery. People like to visit.
We do have a famous bakery, Carlos Bakery. This is a little more touristy, but food is still pretty good there. And then you have everything in between. You have bar and pub food, as I mentioned, cafes, pizza places. So anything that you want, you can easily get here.
So I am heading back to my car after visiting with my sister's family. We had an awesome time, had awesome Cuban food, took a 2-hour walk, which is amazing. So a few other facts that I wanted to share with you about Hoboken. So about flood insurance, 75% of the town requires flood insurance. So if you're thinking about living here and buying here, and you are going to be buying a condo, which is what a lot of the places are here, the flood insurance is included with HOA, so that's very easy. Or if you're thinking about buying your own place, like one of these guys here behind me, or one of these awesome little townhomes, then your flood insurance is going to be a separate payment that you have to make every year, and it could be a pretty penny. So the other consideration is what my sister already mentioned about parking, right? Either if you're lucky, you find a parking on the street, and if that is important to you to have a car so that way you can get out of town and go places, then you should consider purchasing or renting a place that has a deeded parking space. So that is what's important to you. And that means it's going to cost you a little bit more money. I am actually amazed that this town is only about 1 mile radius. There's just so many amazing things that are packed in a town, in the town of this size. So much to do, museums. Frank Sinatra was born here, and it's just every time I come here, it's just so much fun to walk around. So what do you guys think? Amazing town, right? Well, if you are also intrigued by this town, please don't hesitate to reach out, as we would love to be your community and your real estate resource of choice for any questions. Thanks so much for watching, and until next video.